What's up guys, it's been ages, but if there is anyone in the cosmos watching these videos, this is going to be my review for Kengan Omega chapter 176. Hope you guys are doing good. Yeah, I've just been crazy crashed with work and other issues, and I've just not been able to find the time to be able to make these videos and edit them. Yeah, it's not been a good period, but we're back, we're here. Kengan chapter just dropped a couple of hours ago and I'm good to go with it, so let's do this. So first things first, this was a solid chapter and I'm quite excited to see how this fight's gonna go. So if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't really feeling the Berserker Ball when I first heard about it. It just kind of seemed like a thing that was going to be an offshoot from the Kengan versus Purgatory competition. The fights are going to be okay and we weren't really going to get anything special. And also because they kind of tagged it in with the Kengan Annihilation tournament that's coming up soon, I was so gassed for that. It just didn't seem as spectacular and I was just like, okay, it is what it is. But I've been so wrong. So we've had 3 fights so far, or we're in the middle of the 3rd fight, and so far I've enjoyed each and every one. The Koga versus Silva fight, it didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go, but I still thought it was a really good fight. And it was interesting the way it ended. Like, Silva is a crazy guy. And then my guy Rahito beat the guy from Purgatory. I can't really remember his name. I think it's like Michael Myers or something like that. I can't remember for sure, but he was using some kind of indestructible kind of technique, which was cool. But obviously, the guy Rahito's back, he's coming for the win. I'm hoping that he wins this competition. So I kind of said on my Twitter, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I put a post saying that I'm hoping that it's Rahito versus Koga in the finals and then Rahito takes it. That is fingers crossed for me, that's how I see it going, but you never know. But with this chapter and last chapter, we've been going on with Leonardo Silva versus Koga, and it's been quite a good fight so far. Obviously, it's great to see how far Koga's come and see how he's improved and stuff like that. And then you've got Leonardo Silva, who's just an interesting character to me, especially because he's got that Kure bloodline, and then I know his family's meant to be an analogy for the Gracie family in real life, and also the Kure family's meant to be an analogy for the Gracie family, so I like those links. I love the lore of Kengan, if I'm being honest. But we know that he's going to be a very skilled BJJ fighter. So we know that Koga's going to have some kind of trouble with all those characteristics, and he's meant to be even stronger than his dad, who was meant to be great in the Kengan fights. So he's born for this. It's going to be good. And the chapter pretty much starts off where it left off, which was a pretty controversial thing with Koga using the Nico style. So if I'm being honest, I didn't really like it, or at the time I didn't really like it. So it's fine that Koga knows the Nico style, and to be honest, we were kind of expecting it with the way that Ryuki's learning from Kiryu, and he's learning the Koei style, and he's incorporating that into his techniques. Koga does need some kind of buff to be able to combat it. But I don't want it to be a situation where he learns it incredibly easily, or is able to pick up all of these techniques, which I thought was going to happen at first, or that everyone's going to start using the Nico style, because that's a bit boring and it makes it a little less unique to Oma. But at the moment it seems like Koga only knows 3 techniques, which is fine with me, and I love the way that Oma was so casual about it. Like, he's teaching him all these techniques and he doesn't even really seem bothered about it. He doesn't see Koga as a threat at all, which means that he's leagues above Koga at the moment in his own opinion. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as Koga starts rising up the ranks, and to see him as a contemporary to Oma as well, and the way that he treats him, because he doesn't rate him at all at the moment, which is fine and understandable, because he should be one of the strongest in the verse. But back to the chapter, we see that Koga uses the redirection kata, Weeping Willow, to sweep Silva off his feet, and he was baffled by what is going on. He's like, what's this? And we know that these supernovas, and especially because they're coming from Purgatory, I believe Silva's from Purgatory, not Kengan. I'm not 100% sure on that though. But all of these new guys, they don't really know about Oma and their last Annihilation tournament. So for them, this is going to be a rude awakening when Koga starts using these Nico style techniques on them. And we see this happen in the chapter as well, when Koga starts using Ironbreaker, and he was caught unawares, obviously, as I said, with the Reaping Willow. But I do have to rate Leonardo. The way he was able to adapt and combat the Nico style, or the few techniques that Koga used anyway, was interesting and shows that he's a seasoned fighter as well. Which means that this fight is going to be interesting. I am hoping that this fight is a little bit longer than I'm thinking it will be. It looks like it's going to wrap up in the next chapter, but I'm hoping it continues a bit longer. And we get to see a little more of what Leonardo is capable of. But what I would say was the most impressive thing that Leonardo did was being able to parry the Ironbreaker attacks from Koga. You can see how bruised up his hands were, but he was literally getting hit by a barrage of Ironbreakers, which is similar to what Fei Wanfang was doing in the Kengan versus Purgatory tournament. So that can't be easy to defend against. Now, I know Koga's not a veteran in the Nico style, it's probably not perfect, but he said that he's mastered 3 techniques, and this is one of them. And the fact that he was able to parry all of them and set himself up into a joint attack is pretty impressive, I must say. What we also do find out is that Koga seems to have a limit to how much of the Iron Break he can do. Maybe it's because he's not as practiced as Oma, or maybe that's just a limit of the human body, and Oma also has a similar limitation. I'm not entirely sure, but it did seem like he ran out of steam quite quickly in using the Ironbreaker attack, We know it involves clenching the muscles in your hand and in your arm to make it pretty much indestructible, hence the name. But it also must be pretty fatiguing having to clench and tense your muscles for that amount of time. And because of that, he gets into a little bit of trouble, which is something that I liked because we're seeing Koga's progression, but we're also seeing his limitations as well. He's still got a ways to go to be the perfect fighter or the best fighter, or one of even the top 10 in the Kengan-verse. And for me, that's one of the best parts of the story, watching Koga progress more and more. And I hope we get to see more of his training regimes and stuff like that, because we keep on seeing flashbacks or brief callbacks or throwbacks to what was happening. Like we saw a couple of panels of him and Oma training, and he was using the bag to do the Weeping Willow. Like, it's cool, but I do hope we get to see proper scenes and proper chapters going through the different trainings that he's done. But as I was saying, Leonardo gets Koga in a rear naked chokehold, and this is pretty much a done deal at this moment. No, it's looking like a done deal. Because if you've been caught by a rear naked chokehold, you know that it's very difficult to get out of. I do like that Sanjivich and Diamine decided to use Leo Dongchang as a point of view for Koga to learn how to get out of rear naked chokeholds. We know that he's predominantly a striker, but he's the guy that beat Natoku, arguably one of the best grapplers in the verse at the moment that we know of. I'd say it's not that far-fetched to say that he's up there with Cosmo and Koreshi, considering that he was able to combat the Fang to a certain degree a few years back. And it's also good because it shows a different perspective. It's not always the guys that know those grappling techniques that know how to get out of them, it's the people that are combating them all the time. And because Lee Dongcheng's primarily a striker in an underground tournament against loads of different types of martial arts, he's going to definitely need to know how to do that. And because he doesn't grapple, it's going to be a big disadvantage if he doesn't know how to combat the grappling techniques. So the information he gave to Koga was helpful, but kind of not helpful at the same time. He told him to not get in that position in the first place, which is very true because it's very hard to get out of it once you do, but he didn't really give him any initiative or any ideas of what to do when you're in that position. He kind of just said give up hope. And what I really do like is that we get to see Koga's resolve in this situation, because literally in these situations it's only a matter of time. You're fighting against someone in a better position than you, that's able to utilize more of their strength than you. You've only got your hands or whatever's in there blocking it to try and get out of it. Is very difficult. Obviously Lee suggested that he could break his fingers or bite him or whatever, which are viable techniques, and you could technically use them in this kind of competition, I guess. I don't necessarily know if that's against the rules, because we've got guys like Okoye biting chunks out of Cosmo and biting chunks out of, who was he fighting last time? Nicholas Urbana. He bit a chunk out of him, I'm sure, as well. So if it was illegal, I'm assuming that he would have said it by now. But then, because he doesn't want to do this, it begs the question, what is he going to use? And I'll get onto that in a little bit. But what I do want to bring up before that is the relationship between Ryuki and Koga. Now, Ryuki's watching this fight and Kiryu appears and they start having this conversation and banter. And it's interesting what kind of dynamic they have. It's like Kiryu's trying to mold Ryuki to be a better version of himself. Like, he's telling him not to get too close to Koga the way he did with Oma, and that was his mistake. And he's been pretty much mentoring him for whatever reason. I don't know what kind of dark path he's trying to get him down, but yeah, we know it's nefarious. End of story. And we know that Kiryu is not all there at the moment. I'm hoping that there is some kind of breakthrough for him. And we can see from this chapter, he does seem a little bit jealous. So he feels a way that Oma taught Koga some of those techniques. I don't want to say. It feels like, yeah, it's definitely something that seems to have bothered him anyway. And we can see that he still has that similar kind of reverence to Oma, maybe not to the same degree as he did in Ashura, but there's something lingering. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when those guys meet up again. But yeah, what I like about their relationship is that Ryuki sees Koga in this sad situation, pretty much no chance, and he just walks away and says, it's cool, Koga's gonna see me in the next fight. I know he's gonna win. And because of that, I believe it too. And what I feel he's gonna do is gonna be his third Nico style technique. We saw him do Weeping Willow, we saw him do Iron Breaker, and we know that he mastered 3 techniques. I feel like the way he gets out of this rear naked chokehold is going to be the 3rd technique. And I feel like if it's going to be something that could help him get out of it, it has to be, I feel it has to be something in the water kata that would make sense for me anyway. We know that the water kata involves a lot of grappling. We know that Oma used it to defeat a top tier grappler like Cosmo. It's pretty easy to see how he could use some kind of technique in that repertoire, that kata, to get out of it. What he's going to use, I can't even think of at the moment. I have no clue, but I feel like it's going to be something from there. But I guess we'll find out next week. That's it for my review. Let me know what you guys thought of the chapter. Sorry it's taken me so long to get a chapter out. Hopefully I'll be back in maybe next week, maybe if not in the next couple of weeks, but I'll definitely be back. Thanks for watching as always. Until next time, I'm out.